Olive, the other day we were having a conversation about, I think we were having a discussion about sexual harassment. And do you remember when I said you were being emotional and then you got upset? Like,
Yes.
no, when you're if you're saying I'm being emotional, then
Okay, I don't sound like that.
end of discussion. Anyway, the video, you can get the video of that conversation somewhere on our YouTube channel, which, by the way, you can watch many of our conversations. So you took umbrage at my claim that you were inserting emotions in the conversation, and a lot of ladies do seem to resent that insinuation
Yes.
when they are in a professional situation or attempting to have a normal debate or conversation with someone.
And then the other person comes in and says you're being emotional.
Right. And it annoys you. Why?
Now you caught me off guard. For me, the minute you say that I'm being emotional, it kind of feels like you're trying to manipulate the situation, because the minute you say that word, I'm actually now going to become emotional, and then I'm going to lose the debate because now I don't make sense because my feelings have been hurt and I'm not making any sense. I'm not being reasonable.
Right. So what if I were to tell you that research shows that actually, between men and women, that men generally place more value on what might be deemed more logical, whereas women place greater value on what may feel better. And this, in studies that have been carried out, they have seen how this applies to perception of certain political figures, perceptions about certain policies, and they found that women generally gravitated towards positions and people that tended to evoke more positive feelings rather than the question of whether or not a thing was true. And this is what the research shows. Now, does this mean that a woman can never make a rational claim or a logical argument? It doesn't mean that. It just means that they do tend to have a stronger tendency to lean in that direction. So I now quote from an article published in Quillette magazine, which says, in general, men appear to be less concerned about the potential moral consequences of empirical information than women. So when a scholar forwards a potentially true but also potentially offensive claim or set of data, women will be more likely to strive to suppress it than men. Do you recall, I don't know if it was that same conversation, but when I said something like, I think it was about sexual harassment and how it shall be interpreted. And then I sort of made a statement, and then you said, but you see, because you have said that, now men are going to think that it's okay to do this and this and
No,
this.
I said that you're emboldening.
I'm
this
emboldening.
man. Yes.
Exactly. So I was making what I thought was a factual claim, and you were concerned that the claim would be interpreted by people to do bad things.
No, I said that the more you say that this is okay and you try to justify what they are doing, with the example, I will bring back the example that we're using. We used an example of a lecturer who says to a student, you got an F, but if you sleep with me, you will get an A. And I'm like, you saying that the minute she sleeps with him, she's now culpable. So you're giving these men wings. You're telling them, just make sure that she says yes. And there, you're not breaking any rules. You're not being unprofessional. That's what I was saying.
Yes, but if you were to address the fact of the matter, and strictly the fact of the matter, and how we are defining consent and how we are defining harassment, in the context that I was giving, and the context was one in which the offer, it was more of an offer being made in a situation where the person would have otherwise failed. So in other words, you're caught in a situation, okay, like you find yourself in the situation as a female student where you failed to make the required grade, but just by virtue of your poor performance, like no one's sabotaging you. You either didn't study hard enough or the tests were too hard, so you got a low grade. And if presented with an opportunity by a lecturer or a professor who says, hey, sorry about your low grade, but if you would like me to bump you up a few more points, well, you can go out on a date with me, or you can spend the night with me, or something like that. And my argument was that scenario wouldn't qualify as harassment, while it was ethically questionable and possibly even wrong. To use the word harassment to describe the situation, I found it to not be accurate.
But-
Now you. So in response, you said to me that in saying that you are signaling to men that it is okay to insist that girls sleep with you in order to get
But
good
that's
grades.
exactly what you're signaling. That's what you're telling these guys, because they will come back. Because why do we share this information? Why do we have these programs on radio stations or read articles or in the newspapers or even online? It's because people are looking for something.
No,
people
but-
are looking for information that they can use when it suits them. So if the guy listens to you and you're making that argument, and he is in a position to use his power to get himself free sex from his students, he is going to justify it. He will use your same justification by saying, I didn't force you, I promised to bump up your marks, and then you accepted.
You see,
but
but two things can be true.
Something, as a professional, why are you even suggesting that in the beginning to start with?
You see, two things can be. Actually, I think we are both right, in the sense of, in the following way. First, mine is more of what qualifies as harassment, how it is defined. I have made it clear, using that same very example, that what this person did is unethical. And if I were the appointing authority, I would certainly dismiss this person. I do not want someone dishing out free passes in exchange for not just sex, but could be money, could be other material goods. It could be sacks of cement. Do you know what I mean? If you are awarding someone marks for any reason other than their actual performance, that is unethical, and that would be grounds for
But
termination.
non-sexual harassment.
So to me, it's all incumbent on what the principle is, and that is a trade of marks for something that the lecturer might desire. Sex being one of those things. And it could also be cement, it could be cash, which it often is, or whatever other thing. So my point is, the word harassment should not be used too broadly to fall into even that. I think harassment is more an issue of where someone is being blackmailed, where someone is being pressured into doing something.
But if you
that
have
they
the
don't
power,
have to do.
If you have the power, if you have the authority, and you ask me to sleep with you or anything else, you're putting me in a position where it is even hard for me to say no.
It's
when
not.
you have the
But
the
it's up to
opportunity,
you.
but you
have the agency. You can say no.
No, you can say no, and of course we've had stories of women that said no, and she had to spend way more time
Just
in
a
the
minute.
university because the lecturer didn't get what he wanted.
Just a minute. And again, I keep trying to separate two different things. One is where the girl studies hard, answers the questions correctly, would otherwise receive a passing grade or a high grade, but is sabotaged by a lecturer who stands between her and the passing grade by saying that unless you sleep with me, I'm just going to write that you failed, even if you passed. So if you want me to indicate your correct marks, you'll have to sleep with me. To me, that is what the harassment is. Harassment isn't where, actually you have failed, and as the lecturer hands you your report full of F's, he says, oh, by the way, if you'd like to, I could bump you up. I can bump you up because he has. Hang on a second. Because otherwise, here's the scenario. If she says yes, she gets the high grades that she does not deserve.
Okay, let me ask you: if she fails and he offers that if she sleeps with him, she will get a bump in her marks, before she even says yes, what do you term that?
Shadiness.
Is it? It is harassment.
No.
It is, because why in the first place are you suggesting the sex? I've not yet gotten to the part where she says yes or no, or where she does it or she doesn't.
So
the fact
is it
from
if
the
I ask,
where it starts, you are my lecturer, I'm your student, and you're offering me to sleep with you. What do you call that before we go to what it turns into?
So what if the lecturer instead asks for 5 bags of cement?
It's still wrong. Whether he's asking for cement,
it harassment?
Whether he is asking...
Wait.
No, we were talking about sexual harassment. Because when he
This
asks
is why-
for money...
that's why you need to listen to me carefully.
First, listen, let me finish a bit. When he asks for money or cement or whatever, tangible thing, then that is extortion. When you're asking
It's
for my body, then
This is-
that is harassment.
And this is why let's study language a little bit. Sexual harassment is a type of harassment. A type of harassment in which sex is the underlying issue, right?
Yes.
And so when I asked you, since you believe that when someone offers you a high grade in exchange for sex, you deem that to be sexual harassment, which if you do not comply, you will get the failing grade. To you, this is harassment. I am wondering, and this is why, I like focusing on definitions of things. How can it not equally be harassment
If you ask for money
if I ask
or
for
cement?
because what is harassment? You see, and this is where this article kind of makes sense. I think once it becomes about sex, I feel like women just place it on a pedestal that
But
rises higher above
But
any other
Fatboy,
consideration.
it is self-explanatory. You said sexual harassment. Are you going to have sex with cement or money? When you ask for money, maybe it could be harassment, but it is not sexual. Okay?
Wait.
And the underlining topic here was
a moment.
sexual harassment.
Just, you see, this is the thing, my dear. When we are having a conversation about things, what you want to do is to be clear with your definitions. And so in just the same way, we can have something like, think of a concept like, you can have like war, and then you can have world war, or you can have regional war, but it's still war. I was trying to get you to concede that by the standard of definition you're using for that transaction in which a lecturer is offering a passing grade in exchange for sex, if you are to deem that sexual harassment, and so by that same token, any other transaction which would involve something other than sex would also qualify under your standard as a form of harassment, but of a different nature, because you are still being told that unless you offer this thing, that you will be deprived of the passing grade that you otherwise would not obtain. And yet you and I think most people would say that a person who says, give me bags of cement or else I'm going to give you the F you deserve, most people would not say that is harassment.
They are extorting you, so it's a form of harassment.
It's not even extortion.
It is extortion.
It's not extortion. It's not extortion.
What would you call it?
Like I said, it's not extortion. You can call it bribery.
And let me give you another example that happened just last week. The Law Development Center academic registrar was fired for sexual harassment. And this is what was said, that a student failed, and apparently the registrar asked for 30 million to give them the marks. And then he asked for sex. Okay?
In addition to the
30 million. Now, all of these are allegations, but these are some of the texts I've been reading from different sources, claiming that is what this guy has been doing to students.
To me,
that
it's
have
not
been
sexual.
failing.
I refuse to.
Why would you think? Why would a place like LDC fire its own when he asked for sex in turn, to give people marks?
But did you have it? Okay, listen to, and I've said this many times. I'll repeat it again. As the appointing authority, I would terminate the person for behaving unethically.
On which grounds?
I said on being unethical.
But unethical is blanket. You have to bring it down.
Unethical
and
means
categorize it.
Unethical means if you award marks to anyone for any reason other than their actual performance, whether in exchange for gifts or physical sexual favors, to me it all qualifies as unethical. You're already in breach of the standard by which we shall award grades, so I fire you.
The deputy academic registrar, who was a woman, was fired for asking for money to give people marks. But the gentleman was fired because in addition to asking for money, he was also asking for leg. So that is when the sexual harassment came in.
So that's both wrong, but to me that's not sexual harassment.
It was.
I refuse to
So what do you call a man asking a woman to sleep with him, a woman that is not his girlfriend, a woman that is not his wife, to sleep with him so that he gives them something? What do you call that? Especially a man of authority.
It doesn't matter because, like I said, and most people who hear my argument will appreciate the fact that if a lecturer said, "Hey, dude, look, you failed. You left you left half the sheet blank. You didn't answer the questions correctly. But if you pay me money, then I'll give you a passing grade or something like that." Most people would not view that offer as an act of harassment. I think, like I said, the only reason
that way because they want to get the easy way out.
Which
them
similarly,
not viewing it
just
that way doesn't necessarily mean that
let me
it
ask
is
you a
not
question.
the actual thing
So
happening.
so the person being asked to pay money, do you think they want to pay money? Wouldn't they rather not pay money and still get the passing grade? Yes,
of course.
Exactly. Similar to the woman who would rather not have sex and get the passing grade. Now, recall that we're looking at a situation in which there was no pass grade. The people had failed in both instances. And so, after having been handed their reports, they could have gone their merry way and lived their lives. But instead, the lecturer makes the offer, "Hey, first come, hold on 1 second. But if you'd like me to, I can turn things around." And so he could say, "Okay, give me money," or he can say, give me sex. That to me is not harassment.
When it comes to sex, when it comes to issues of sex, especially when it comes to sex, especially when a man has authority or even a woman, when you do accept to have the sex, people will say, "She said yes, so she's culpable." And probably you're right. But here's the thing. Sometimes it's hard to say no to someone that has more mileage or leverage over you, someone that puts you in a position where you can't say no. Now, right now,
you can't say no. Why can't you say no? Just a moment.
Where I am now, I know my rights. I know BS when I
Why
see it,
can't you
and
say
there
no?
are things I can
One
say
second.
no to. But some of
Why
these
can't you
girls,
say no?
hear me out. I'm still telling you. Some of these ladies are as young as 18, 19, 20, and most of them are not even confident enough to stand up to a lecturer or a boss and say, "I will not sleep with you."
Whose fault is that?
Well, we are going to castigate anyone, but let's call men what they are. Some of the men are predators and they need to stop. That is where we need to have this conversation.
No, and
we cannot justify men saying, "Oh, you said yes, so it is nothing." Why did you use your position to ask for sex to begin with? And this is the question I've been asking since the beginning.
And I've answered it 1,000 times, and it's not sunk in.
You haven't.
I've answered it 1,000 times.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
Hear you.
I did. I gave you the and this is the problem. And again, I don't know if you see. Some people have a tendency, everyone has their sacred cow, let's say, if I may use the phrase. Essentially, they have certain issues that they feel are of special, unique interest to them personally by virtue of how it may innately be connected to their being, and in this case, sex. And once you bring that up, I have found in the conversations that I've had on this topic have borne this to be true, that it is difficult for the issue to be discussed in a way that is more objective without evoking feelings of indignation and expressions of pain on the part of the woman who is in the argument. So, for example, I can sit here and say, in all cases where a lecturer may make an offer to someone, regardless of whether what is being asked for is cement, cash, or any other favors, sexual or otherwise, I am capable of looking at it or categorizing it within the same bracket. Now, on the sexual part, it more uniquely impacts women by virtue of the fact that it is usually, female sexuality is innately more valuable in the marketplace, if I can put it that way. In other words, there's more men eager to sleep with women than more women eager to sleep with men, if I can say, and few would disagree, right? Men tend to be more sexually adventurous and seek it out and tend to take steps to obtain it through various means. And some utilize unscrupulous means to obtain it. And the same is true for money and cement. Some people seek it the honest way, and others use their positions of authority to extract it, unethically. And so in this case, when someone says, okay, give me a bag of cement and I'll give you your marks, and someone says, give me sex and I'll give you the marks. To me, it's like, strictly on a matter of principle, it's the same offense. And the only reason why it's not the same is because you believe it to be subjectively more harmful, since it affects you more as a woman.
Because, Fatboy, if someone asks you to give them a bribe of 10 million or 5 million, if you can afford it, you won't even think twice. You'll just give them that money. Not because the money is not valuable to you, but because,
Why would I think? Well, don't assume I wouldn't think twice.
No, I'm saying money can be made anytime, and you won't feel like I gave away something that is so valuable to me. Now, you said it yourself that sexuality of women is more marketable, right? That women are regarded according to how they, present themselves sexually and the things they do. So if someone is going to subject my body, because this is now my body, the thing that defines
my
me,
body, my money,
the thing that makes me who I am.
That's subjective.
Because you are
do you agree that you're making a subjective statement?
It is not subjective.
You are referring to how you feel about yourself.
And yes,
what if I feel as equally strong about my money as you feel for your body?
No, you're using your feelings. You're using your feelings to get an erection and ask for sex.
No, my point
Those are your feelings. A man starts with his feelings ask for a woman's body. So why isn't a woman allowed to have feelings when it comes to her body? Yet the man is using his feelings too.
No, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the use of feelings in deciding how we categorize certain actions and certain transactions. And now if you believe, listen, if you are telling me that, and perhaps rightly so, that for you personally, and maybe a lot of women, not all by the way, but perhaps a lot, that to trade their bodies for something is something they might feel great pain in doing. Maybe it is something that they do not like to do. It makes them feel bad to even be in a relationship where you have a man you may not be attracted to, but you gotta sleep with him because it's your husband. It might make you feel disgusted about yourself, and it's a feeling that I'm sure a lot of women can relate to. But in a conversation about whether or not it is worse for someone to ask for sex compared to someone asking for money, that distinction can only be subjective. Because
why?
By definition, because it speaks to how someone personally feels, but an attachment someone personally feels to their body,
your body
and to their money.
And what do you want? You want women to take away an attachment of feelings from their bodies?
So how do
you separate that?
So what if I feel just as bad in giving away my money?
Do you feel this? Let me give you this example.
Sure.
You are running a business. You go into this place and you're trying to chase a deal, and the chick is like, to give you this deal, first sleep with me. What is your first reaction?
Stop and think about it.
So why are you thinking about it?
You don't think as a businessman. I'm not presented with questionable
and I'm asking,
situations.
Why would you think about it? Why won't you just jump into bed with her without even thinking about the ripple effect? Because
life is not a bed of roses, and life is full of trade-offs. There are times you will have to do things you don't fully agree with. You don't always get to have everything your way. And so you make the cost benefit determination and decide whether or not something is worth getting into or not.
And the women are making a cost benefit determination by saying my body is off the books.
Not all.
Not all, but many. Not all, but many.
So to those who don't have the same attachment to it as you, are they not women?
No, they are women, but the exception doesn't define the rest of us.
You're imposing your sentiments on all of them. Have you noticed?
This is where we are going back to where we started.
You are imposing.
It is not being a sentiment.
You concede that not all women. You concede that not all women.
But you yourself, you've been saying some women may not do ABCD. Not all of them.
More charitable to you than you have been to me.
So what were you doing? Did you just want me to say things, but you don't want to agree with the things I'm saying?
No, what I mean is I was throwing you an olive branch and showing attempting
Here
to
is
show
the thing, James.
that I understand where you're coming from,
Cost-benefit
but it still
determination.
is subjective.
Many women will say, my body is off the table, just like you, how you will stop and think and determine and say, this doesn't work for me. And when it comes to us, our sexuality is not something for trading. Some women may do
That's
it.
not true.
They're the exception.
That's BS.
It doesn't
Women
mean...
trade sex all the time.
Oh, really?
Have you not heard of commercial sex workers?
And how many women are commercial sex workers? Can you give me a percentage?
It depends on how you define commercial sex work.
Well,
If
I
a woman is
will
gonna
also
go,
tell you that
if a
it
woman will
depends
go
on
out
how
a-
you define it.
If a woman will go on a date with you because you're loaded, what's that?
What's a debt? Because the last time I checked,
You'll
a
date a
debt
guy
doesn't
because
necessarily mean having sex
You'll
with
date
a
a
man.
guy. You'll date a guy because he's rich. Women do this all the time. Do you deny they do this?
Oh, so there are men who date women because they are rich. So what do we call that?
That's what I'm saying. And
And
the
when
deeper,
you say
let me tell you,
dating,
the deeper you dig into this,
because I asked you, you said
Watch out.
you go on a date with a man because he's rich, and I'm like, so does going out to eat food necessarily mean sex? Do women sleep with men every time they go out with them on a date?
well, it is what most men would prefer. Like, it's
But
almost.
is it
it's,
what
it's,
happens
it's-
all the time?
It's almost as though you want to deny the.
I am not
You want to
denying
deny.
anything,
You
by
want
the
to.
way.
Hang on a
I
second.
am asking you questions and you're being vague in your answers, and now you're saying I'm denying
Because
things.
so gloves off. Let me just be direct. Most men believe that women are materialistic, and our lived experience shows that to be true. We find that our relationships tend to be more successful the more resources we have. The more resources we have, we're able to attract the women we want. We are able to retain and sustain their interest. And in the absence of those resources, we do tend to see these women fleeing. So to most men, we understand that the need for money is important in dating and in
Actually,
relationships.
the need for
Some
money
men
is
will go as
important
far.
because it gives you power and it gives you access as a man, not just to women, but to circles you would never be part of when you don't have the money. So don't make it look like that men only benefit from having money just to get women. Money
It's why
gives
most
you
of us
access.
want money.
No,
It's
money
to get women.
gives men access to anything this life can offer.
Including women. And why do you think that is?
Women, no, you know why?
Because women like money.
Okay.
And there are women who will happily sleep with men, be married to men they don't even like.
And like
of money.
I said, I'm not denying what
So
you're saying.
this, my body, my this.
I just said that is an exception. That's why you brought in the example of commercial sex workers. I didn't say they are not there, but I say they are the exception.
So my
not
point.
every woman out there is going to trade her body for something else.
And
not everyone. Keyword, not everyone.
And so for me, I would only count it as harassment under two conditions. One, where the attention is not okay. If an initial approach has been made and it has been rejected, should a man persist thereafter, I think that qualifies, to me, that would qualify as harassment. And in a scenario in which a person is being blackmailed into offering it in exchange for something that a person may duly be entitled to me, that qualifies as harassment. But in a scenario in which it is being made, an offer is being made to a female that in exchange for sex, she can have something she otherwise would not have, I absolutely can't see that as harassment.
And I asked you, once he makes that offer, before she even responds, what do you call that? Just an offer?
Yes, just an offer.
Wow.
A sleazy offer that she...
Do you know, you can find all these words, sleazy, shady, whatever.
But that's
the
what it
one
is.
word you don't want to use because you don't want to accept for what it is. It is harassment.
Because that's
And
not what it is.
We will agree to disagree.
It's an abuse of
You're
the word.
finding all other words to use to mean the exact word that you're running away from.
Definitions are important.
That's a shame.
And I think casting a wide net to incorporate harassment, I think is dangerous and ultimately unhelpful, because many women utilize their sexuality to seek favor and advance in the world. I'm not going to judge them.
This is what you're not getting.
I'm not judging them for that.
This is not what you're getting. Women may utilize their sexuality to get things they are instigating. They start it, they want it, they make a choice. Why are you making the choice for me by asking me to sleep with you before I have even made the choice?
I haven't made the choice for you.
No, I'm saying
presented
when
an
a
offer. The choice is yours.
When a lecturer says that, so what happens? Okay, you said if he offers and she accepts, it is not harassment. So what happens when he offers and she says no?
That's the end of it.
I can't believe you.
As in, what happens?
Okay, fine. We are going to agree to disagree on this one.
All right, then. Well, you can let us know what you think about this. You can leave your comment below if you're watching this on YouTube, or you can send us a message through the RX Radio app or through our social media, Twitter or Facebook, and let's keep the conversation going. As you can see, this is not a debate that's going to end anytime soon. You're listening to The Fatboy Show on RX Radio.